All right, let's start this seminar. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to UITM Research Webinar. This program is a collaboration between RMU UITM Cawangan Negeri Sembilan and Pejabat Timbalan Naib Chancellor. I would like to say thank you again for joining us, walaupun dah petang-petang ni kan. Here with us today is our speaker. Kita ada Associate Professor Dr. Angie. She is a lecturer from the Akademi Pengajian Bahasa in UiTM Negeri Sembilan, based on Seremban campus. She has a very wonderful journey with UiTM, and I believe she could share a lot of experience, especially in writing the literature review. Before we proceed with the webinar, here with us today is Prof. Norita Matahir. She is from CORE, which is Community of Research, UiTM. And then Prof. Norita will give an opening speech and then followed by Dr. Angie's talk. So again, before I pass this program to Prof. Norita and then Dr. Angie, I would like to have your cooperation to mute your mic. And if you do have any questions, please do not hesitate to unmute your mic. And also you are allowed, you can basically type some questions on the chat space over here that we have. Okay, Prof. Norita.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Zati. Can you hear me, Dr. Zati? Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi. Yeah, you can hear. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, everyone. For joining us for this webinar series. UiTM Cawangan Negeri Sembilan as the main organizer, while Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation Shah Alam as the co-organizer. I would like to congratulate UiTM Cawangan Negeri Sembilan for having this very fruitful activities during RMO. And look at the participants now. We have 199 online at 5 minutes in the evening, which is, you know, is very encouraging and very good indication how our lecturers are really willing to listen to Dr. Angie today. Without further, besides that, I hope that more series or more webinars will be organized by other campus too, so that we can have this sharing session online between campus and also in our Shah Alam campus and Selangor campus. Thank you for allowing Office of Deputy Vice Chancellor Research and Innovation to be your co-organizer. And without further ado, I would like to pass to Dr. Angie, because we want to listen to her together on her title, Reporting Literature Review versus Analyzing and Critique. So stay put and let's have this sharing session. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Okay, Dr. Angie, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, so you can start now.
All right. I would like. Okay, I'm going to share my slides as well. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening and welcome to our webinar session today. As you all know, I'm Angie and I'm from the Academy of Language Studies, UiTM Negeri Sembilan Seremban 3 campus. When I started preparing for this topic, I asked myself this question: where am I coming from? Where am I coming from? Answer is obvious. I'm coming from the Academy of Language Studies. That is my background. And And having language as my background, I figured that I'm positioned to lead this sharing from the language stance. Hence, I would like to share how we can use language as a powerful tool in our literature reviews. I'm going to share some simple pointers that I'm sure we are all aware of, but it's just that it never occurred to us that we could apply this in writing our literature reviews and pushing the boundaries beyond mere reporting. And moving on to the analytical stance and the critique, rather than just mere reporting. Hence, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like to share with you this evening is more my experiences from learning over time and after much reflection. I would say that they are more experiential learning. It's not about my content knowledge sharing, because this is easily accessible and reachable from many sources, print and otherwise. And so I am sharing something that's my personal sharing, my personal learning journey. I'm grateful and honored to be able to do this with and for UITM. And I really hope that this will be useful for those of us who are going to write our literature review, or plan to write a literature review, or are writing our literature review. First, I'm going to run through the generic organizational matters which are mandatory and described differently by various researchers. But
Hello, sorry, Dr. Angie.
yes.
Can you please turn on your camera, dear?
Oh, okay. Is my camera on? Can you?
Yes, it's turned on. I can see you.
Okay, all right. I can't see myself though. All right, that's good. Can I continue?
Yes, please do.
All right, first I'm going to run through the generic organizational matters which are mandatory and described differently by various researchers, but with the same underlying principles. While I do this, I will elaborate on the importance of a few of the points. Then I'll move on to the language stance and explain these briefly. Finally, I will showcase samples of literature reviews with side notes, fleshing out the language points that I would have talked about, and that would help to move our literature review to an analytical and critique stance by the researcher. I will also go through briefly the abstract of the samples, because I would like to show how they're connected. You know, a piece of work, the abstract, the problem statement, and the literature review, you cannot put them, you cannot fragment them. They are all part of a whole. And I want to show you how, if you use language effectively, the abstract naturally leads to your problem statement and naturally leads on to your literature review. But I will go very briefly on that because the focus is on the literature review. The thing that the language can do for us is to allow the researcher's voice to be heard. Now, when the researcher's voice is heard, it is no longer a report. You're already moving on to an analytical or a critique stance. And that is important. When the session is over, I will be happy to have a question and comment feedback time. I'm not saying Q&A because I may not have the answers for the A, for the the answers to your questions. However, I think we can all work it out together. With that, let me begin sharing my slides.
Dr. Angie, boleh klik present now tu?
Hang on, let me see. I thought I did present. Can you see this?
No, apparently I'm not. I can't see anything. Yeah.
Okay. Present now. Yes, I've got that. And then I've opened the window.
Yes, you can share your entire screen if you can.
Oh, entire screen. Okay, that'll be better then. Okay, let me do that.
Yeah.
Can you see my slides?
Apparently I can't.
Okay, what am I doing wrong? Huh? Let me see now. I went to, wait. Okay, let's close this. Okay, I've, mm, I've, okay, present now. Entire screen. Huh? Mhm. Are you able to see something?
Apparently I can't. Why don't you try to present? Click the present now, and then click the entire screen. Screen
Yeah,
means that you entire
okay.
screen,
Yes,
and
I've
then
done
if you have, you've done that.
I clicked on the entire screen. Now,
Yeah,
shall I shall I click on share or shall I just open my slides?
you can click share,
Yeah,
and then you can open your slide.
yes. Are we there?
No, not yet. Okay.
Oh, what is it? That's okay. Let me minimize it again. Okay. I think I have to open a window rather than entire screen. Do you think so?
Yeah, you can try.
Okay, let's try that and see.
All right.
Present now in a window. Yes. Sharing. Oh, nothing's happening yet. Can you try to open the PowerPoint first? Okay, let me open the
Yeah.
PowerPoint first. Okay. Okay, I've opened my PowerPoint. All right, and then should I? Then I minimize it. No, I'm not getting there. Sati, could you help me?
Okay, you click present now, and
Yes.
then
Okay,
let's
done.
do that, and then try to share a window.
Done that.
Okay, and then click on the apps that you want to share, which is the PowerPoint,
Yes, I've done
and then
that.
click share.
I've done that, and it opens up, and I can't go back to share.
You can't go back to share. You,
Mm.
you share before you proceed with the
Yeah, do the share first, I think. Okay.
yeah. Click the
Share
share
first.
first.
Yes, and then I'm going to open my PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
That's what I did, Let
Is
me
anyone know how to do this? I
Yeah.
can't do this.
I was
Angie,
interested.
hi, Dr. Angie.
Hi.
You have to open already your presentation slide, and then you go to present now. After that, you click your PowerPoint slide, then you share.
It's
You
open
have
actually. It's open. I've minimized it.
all right. You
Yeah.
you open already your presentation slide.
Yeah, it's all open and I've minimized it, so it's right here at the bottom, waiting to be opened. So,
Doctor, I
yes.
will. I
Okay.
just take a picture. You check your WhatsApp. I just
Okay.
WhatsApp.
Okay.
I
All right.
the way to how to share.
Okay. Thanks, dear.
Me too, Doctor. I also have sent the WhatsApp to you.
Okay. Present now a window. Choose the screen you want to share. Okay, just a moment. Let me try and see if I can get some young people's help here. Just give me a second.
Saya memohon maaf terlebih dahulu. Ada yang minta saya masukkan peserta, tapi kita dah sampai maksimum 250 orang pada hari ini.
Oops.
Saya minta maaf sekali lagi. Saya harap semua orang dapat bersabar dan kita tunggu Dr. Angie, ya.
And then I can do my entire screen also. Okay, and then when I open the PowerPoint, they hang on. I did. Okay, doesn't matter. I put share, and they can't see it. And then now you see I open it, right? They can't see it. Minimize. Okay. Cancel first. Okay, and my friend has sent me a thing of how to do present now. Yes. And then you can go to a window. Okay. Oh, maybe you press there. Maybe there.
The one now is your window.
Here, mine is the PowerPoint here. I think that's it. Yeah. Now we go to share. Okay, maybe share first. Okay, and then you go to the PowerPoint. Okay. Can you see now?
Yes, it's working now. Yes.
Great. Thanks. Great.
All right.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. We are passionate to wait for your presentation.
All right, so now I would like to move on to the generic steps involved in writing a literature review. Okay, so this is something that you will read in any of the textbooks or or the material that you come across when you. It's just that it may be labeled differently or arranged differently. Now, I would like to just point my attention to step 3, okay, which is the gap. All right, the gap actually.
Dr. Angie, I'm really sorry, but I can't see the presentation slide. So could you open the slide?
Oh.
Yeah.
You can't see it?
No, apparently I can't.
Oh, but just now I thought. Oh,
yes,
dear.
You are presenting, but it's you need to put.
Okay,
we cannot see the slide. Yeah.
Okay, we need help.
All right.
Okay, we're working on it. We're working on it. Okay. Let's just minimize. Let's just end this PowerPoint first. Okay, we end the show. Okay. Now, shall we say stop sharing that? Maybe stop sharing first. Okay, minimize. Okay, go back to present. Okay, go back to your entire screen. Okay, you're sharing your screen. Great, that is, isn't it? Okay, is the screen visible now?
Yes, finally it is. I can see the slides now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yes,
great.
I got.
All right. Okay. All right. Sorry for the delay, everyone. So sorry. Okay, so these are the 10 steps that you'd find in most texts, but I would like to draw attention to step 3. Okay, step 3. In order for us to focus on a good literature review, we must have first found our gap, all right, in the literature. And looking for this gap requires much reading. And only after the gap is found can we proceed well. And I like to visualize the gap diagrammatically. You know, this is actually what you are looking at, because you are saying that all this is the work that has been done, and this is the gap that you have found. Okay, so you need to talk about all this literature review here surrounding this, because it's the same topic, but you are taking a slice of it that has not been covered in this portion. Are you with me?
Yes.
Yes, Prof.
So that when you look at it that way, you begin to understand things better, you know. Now, when you have got your gap, it's a big leap forward. And with the gap, you'll be able to look into so much. Now, it's important that you talk about the classic works of researchers in the area. So when you're talking about classic works of researchers in that area, you have no choice, but a certain amount of reporting is necessary, because that is your guru of that topic. All right. And of course, you're moving on. So it may be people in the 18th century or 17th century who have found certain things, and you need to talk about them. So in that part, you will still be doing a certain amount of reporting. So don't think that a literature review does not have reporting at all. There is a place for everything, a place for reporting, a place for analyzing, and a place for critique. That's where your voice comes in. Now, if you take, for example, behavioristic theories, you would definitely have to mention gurus such as Pavlov, Thorndike, Skinner. And these people lived in what era? It was a long time ago. Okay, so you will be reporting there. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'm now going to go to step 10. Okay. Now, when you've finished all these steps here, and now you've done your piece of work, before your submission to your main reader, your supervisor, or you know, the Senate, I mean, not even the Senate, but you know, the steps just before that, you need to get a third party to read it. Now, why is this so? Okay, I've arranged this in a few boxes, 4 boxes. If your answer to this question, can our readers see what our research is about? And can our readers see the gap? It's always the gap. We're talking about the gap. If the answer for these 2 questions is yes, you move on. You don't go further. You don't have to do anything further. Your work is clear. However, it may not be so. So when this is a no, we need to get feedback from our readers. Edit, rewrite, until people who did not understand see and can make sense of our work. It's all about making sense of our work. It makes sense to us because we were working on it, but it's got to make sense to our readers. And clarity is important here. Clarity is a crucial point. Otherwise, you got to rework it. Rework this until it is clear that someone who doesn't know about your area can say, I get it now. And then, of course, you know that your literature review is never complete. You are constantly updating, even 6 months before you submit it. There's always work that's coming up. And when you are keeping up to date, it fathoms very well for you when your readers are reading your work. It is a big plus point for you. And now, this is the meat of my presentation, the language stance. As you can see in the first, I put them into 4 neat boxes, but of course it can be any boxes. And, you know, I just try to arrange them, you know, like this. They are very simple things, but I will show you how they work for you. Let's take the first one. Useful language skills. Let's just talk about paraphrasing for a bit. What happens when we write our literature reviews? This is really what happens. We cite a study from a research paper. Isn't that true? we have not really gone to the source. Hence, we do copy and paste work. This is what is called pure reporting. Now, let's take it a step further. Get to the source of the work. Study it well. Rewrite it in your own words, the way we understand it, without changing the focus or meaning. Now, this is paraphrasing and is a language stance that moves our literature review a step beyond pure reporting. Now, you are often tempted when you paraphrase to add your voice in there. After because you've understood the study so well, and then you might end up saying, however, this area was not covered. Because you're so into it, you've gone into the source. That's why paraphrasing actually is a forerunner to help push your voice forward. Therefore, go to the source of the studies rather than doing copy and paste work from research papers. Of course, when we do simple research papers, for journal writing and all, maybe we're not so particular, but we should be actually, we should. So ladies and gentlemen, can you see now how paraphrasing can help? Well, I'm going to flesh this out in a real thesis in a short while. All right, let me just run through a little bit of explanation before I do that, okay? Let's look at summing up. Summing up. Usually we cite a number of studies and then we move on to the next subheading. My question, what has happened to summing up of the studies cited earlier? What were the connections between the studies cited among themselves and with your work? Where is that connection? What were the common threads in these studies with your study? If you have done that, your summing up here of each subheading, it makes your literature review more than a report. You are looking critically into it, and your critique stance comes up. Your literature review has many subheadings. Each subheading should have a summing up. Look at what's common in those studies among themselves, and what is that connection with your study. It's just a simple skill, summing up, just as paraphrasing was. So these are actually door openers, they open doors for you to be analytical and exercise critique. If we do a summing up, it shows that we understand the studies cited and found meaning and links, connections to those studies. And we knew why we had categorized them accordingly under the parts of what would be relevant to our own study. So in your arrangement of your studies, in your categorizing of them, you are already exercising more than a report. So you need to tell us why you categorized it that way. And that will come in your summing up. So in summing up, we are again moving our literature review to an analytical stance. And now let's talk about key terms or keywords. Every time we use keywords or key terms, we are reminding ourselves and our readers where we are, where our focus is. In doing so, it will help us to be more analytical while we look at how these key terms are interpreted by the researchers, the past researchers that we have cited, and ourselves. In interpreting the keywords or key terms in accordance to our work, we have moved away from reporting to an analytical stance. And then what about vocabulary? Using the right and concise vocabulary can make all the difference. Again, I will exhibit this in the samples to follow. Our voice. Whose voice? Our voice, the researcher's voice. The moment our voice is heard, we are no longer reporting. We have moved to the analytical and critique mode. Again, I shall exemplify this in the sample to follow. Okay, let's look at the fourth box, making a case and guiding our research. Making a case is when we negotiate ways of pushing our work to the forefront by citing other work and showing what is not mentioned there. Sometimes we do this very cleverly by posing a question. The researcher is thus making a little space there for his or her work to fill that space. This negotiation is analytical and a critique. It is just slipping a sentence in the paragraph, and that can make all the difference, and you will see that soon. What about guiding our readers? Guiding our readers is when we tell them outright where our journey is and where we are taking them. Once again, I'm going to show this to you in the samples. Now, I think we are all very anxious to look at the samples. So I'm going to now share my sample. Now, I've got to get help now. How do I do that? Now, I got to, okay,
You can just, I think you can just open, yeah.
All right, can you see that? Wow, okay.
Yes, I do.
All right. Okay, this is the title of the doctoral piece of work, all right? And what I've done is I made these notes at the side of each so that I'll take you through. Shall we journey together? Can you see my side notes?
Yes, I can see the side notes and
In
also
case they're
the...
not very clear because they're so tiny, I will also talk to you. I'll talk you through it, okay?
All right.
All right, when we say this study analyzes the communication styles among genders, more specifically among married couples, okay, as we go on, the researcher's voice and focus on the present study is there. And then the keywords are there. What are the keywords? I put them in green. Communication styles, genders, married couples. Further, married 5 years or less, marital satisfaction. All these are guiding. You are guiding the readers, to your work. And you have also got your key terms. Everything established in your abstract. Very clear. Okay? Then look at this. This study will be conducted through, again, the researcher's voice, back again to this study, her study. And in that short span of time, the goal has already been established. All in this little bit of abstract. It is really full and it has everything that you need. Okay, but since the abstract is not our concern now, I'm going to just move on a bit. Okay, I'm going to move on, but still on the abstract, today, a divorce has become now a very common part of life, and it's likely that ineffective communication plays a crucial role in the failure of many marriages. Look at that. Crucial failure. You see, what the researcher has established is the researcher is creating a space to build her case slowly by bringing urgency. Now, who wants to hear about divorce and how important it is to have families together? So she is actually showing us how important the study is. And how does she do it? By the use of suitable vocabulary, choice of words and phrases. Okay, it's all about language, isn't it? Okay, so there you are. And then you see, worthy. The effectiveness of communication is likely connected to the overall satisfaction of married couples and is worthy. So this is a worthwhile study. Don't you doubt it. Okay, that's what, this is her voice. She's talking to us. All right, and so we are saying, okay, let's see whether it's really worthy. All right, okay. So very important to use the concise vocabulary. And then, of course, when you read that it is to increase marital satisfaction, that's what every government wants. That's what every social situation once, you know. So yeah, okay, so it is a worthy thing. Let's look further. All right, do you know where I'm coming from? All right, now let's look at the first person, the first researcher that's been cited. Okay, Weigel and Ballard-Reach, 2008. If you read this whole paragraph has been paraphrased. This researcher has studied Weigel, Ballard, and Reach and paraphrased it in her own words. Basically, the study says there's a need to understand each other. Okay, we're talking about spouses, married 5 years and less. Okay, need to understand each other. This is what the whole paragraph is saying. But she has written it in her own words. And so it is not a report anymore. She even has the word here, however, you know, however, all right? If the man decoding, this is from her own thoughts. Okay, all this was from the research. And then she says, however, if the man decoding the message was familiar with his wife's style of communication, he may have interpreted it properly, therefore avoiding a conflict. This is her voice. So it is not a report. It is a paraphrase of what they did. And her comments slipped with a sentence into the paragraph. So paraphrasing is an important skill in writing a literature review, and the researcher has done it well here. The reporting has moved to an understanding by the researcher in her own words and posing her own questions or comments. Let's move on. This literature review will discuss a good sense of guiding the readers. So what is this literature review going to discuss? There you are. It's going to cover what? Keywords again. Non-verbal communication styles, flirtation, conflict communication, communicated perspective taking. Okay, so she's done this so nicely, and it's just leading on to the review of literature. There was another word that I saw here that I thought was this study will further advance communication research by helping people discover more. Okay, so this study, you've already heard about it earlier, and now she's adding the further. See, these are all signal words.
Sorry, Dr. Angie, I would like to interrupt. There are several questions here.
Okay.
On the chat. The question asked is how to know we are using the good words. Apparently, that is the same question that I'm writing down here. And then another question is how to identify that is a good word. And I would like to know more about the guiding words here, because you mentioned about these study, these and these, and
okay, all right.
How
sure.
can you classify this is a guiding word? Can you give more example? What is the example of guiding word?
This
Thank
is basically
you.
a demonstrative. Thank you, Dr. Zeti. This is basically drawing attention to your work. It's a guiding word, and guiding word. You are drawing attention to your work, and you're taking the reader on a journey. So you're telling the reader, it's not that study, this study, this study. It's my study. It's my this study. So it's basically a demonstrative pronoun. But don't worry about all those grammatical terms. But you are being very specific. Actually, this. As for does that answer that part of the question? Guiding. When we look at more examples, maybe we'll have a better idea, you think?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then the other question was about the vocabulary, is it?
Yes, how do we know that we are using a good word, and how we do identify the good word?
Yes. Okay, you got me there, huh? You got me there. Can I give that question some thought?
Yes, sure. You can proceed with it, yeah.
Yeah, and then probably we can get it back again at the end, all right? Because my mind is now wondering
All
how
right.
do I... Yeah, thanks.
All right.
Thanks. Okay, as we move to the literature review now, all right? Okay. This is the cited work, okay? Wensfield, Stack's Research Study 2002. Okay, right. So this work looked at the length of time men and women looked at their partners. Okay, and the finding, of course, was that women looked at their partners for a longer time. Okay, this is just a report. Okay, they're just reporting this. As I said, your literature review cannot be analyze, critique. There is a place for reporting as well. Okay, so this is an example of a report, just reporting it. Okay, and you look at the next one. However, it starts with however. However, while men express less emotion and non-verbal communication, this may not necessarily mean that they are not listening. Here, you have the researcher's voice. This is important to show us other aspects which are not mentioned by the cited researcher, but the author, or rather the researcher, poses this question. Remember I said in my notes earlier, one of the ways of bringing the researcher's voice to the work is by posing a question. We may feel awkward to say, the researcher does not answer this. You can, or the researcher is silent on this matter. But this is another way, using a signal word. However, okay, while men express less emotion, this does not necessarily mean that they are not listening when their wives speak to them. Okay, so it is your researcher's voice that's coming in. This is critique. It was not covered in the work. It is also analytical, and it's going further than mere reporting. And then as you go further down, for instance, it's another signal word here to tell you that there are studies that say that substantiates the case with reasoning provided by Wakefield and Stacks. There are studies that also agree with Stack, okay, and that's good. So you're making a connection between Wakefield Stack, okay, all right. What else was he substantiating? The researcher substantiates the case with reasoning provided by Wakefield and Stacks. Stacks has given some reasons, okay, and the findings, all right, are that, okay, men are taught to dampen emotions, for example, anger, signal words, for instance. So we are adding more and more to this piece of research that we quoted earlier, and we are citing examples. So you are making a connection here and here. Okay, you are making some connections. So it is not a mere report anymore. Okay? Can we move on?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, you see this word, therefore. Therefore, it was suggested that many men fail to show emotion in general because they have trained themselves to be emotionless. The researcher uses this connecting device, this discourse marker, to summarize the work, a useful device to use for literature reviews. You see, there is a summarizing of the work earlier. You don't just leave it hanging out there. You put in a therefore and all this. So you are bringing it to a nice end to those studies. Then we go on to Sabatelli, Buck and Dyer. Okay, here. Also suggested that this is true. So what is the researcher doing here? The researcher makes connections with other research work. And that's where Sabatelli, Buck and Dyer come in, because they also agreed with the earlier researcher. So what are you doing? You are categorizing. All right, this is what we talked about, the subheadings of your literature review. All right, of course, the researcher was quite good and has given us the subheadings, but she has not left us with the subheadings hanging at the end. She has made connections and given us a little summing up at the end here. Okay. Let us go further down here. Here. However, the question must be raised. Who is talking here? However, the question must be raised. This is the researcher's voice, analytical, at the same time guiding the focus of the study. She's very confident. She's clear of the directions to be taken. She raises an important question, and this is part of a literature review. So a literature review is not report, 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 analyze, analyze, analyze. You are raising questions in the minds of the readers as well as yourself, which you are making a case for probably the work that you are going to do, and you are going to address these. What is the question to be raised? Do couples have a higher marital adjustment because they have good communication? Or, okay, what is it now? What are the two areas that you're looking at? Or do couples have good communication because they are happy with their marriage? They're two different things. Two different things, and she raises this question here. You don't have to, she doesn't have to answer it here, but it's a sort of a leading, it's leading you to your work. Let us move on here. Here, we have both studies reveal that, okay? So we are saying that ultimately couples become more successful at interpreting their spouse's non-verbal communication, but important point is over time. So this is actually a summing up of those two studies, all right? A summing up, and she has done this nicely before moving on to the next heading. Okay, a summing up. So, and even in between in the above, it was not just purely reporting. As you can see, she raised questions. Okay, she used some signal words. So all that will be noted by your reader. Okay. And this is another subheading, you see. So your literature review should have subheadings. It's easier for your readers. It's much easier for your readers. Now, let's look at this. Another difference in flirtation style may occur due to the differences in the amount of expressiveness between men and women. Okay, what's happening here? The researcher is adding on to the literature review and extending the content of the previous work. It is like building blocks, when you start to build a house, the first brick goes, then the second, and the third, and the fourth, and then 5, 6, 7, So this is how you are sort of decking up your studies to build it up. You're building up to a temple from one to the next, and you are making the connection. You're talking about the differences, the similarities, all that will be mentioned, will be brought up. So you see, it's well connected, well organized, and a cohesive literature review. Let's move on to another heading, another subheading. Another aspect of conflict. You see how the choice of words, another, they are signal words. Furthermore, another, for instance, it shows you that I'm adding things now. So whatever was said earlier, now I'm adding. I said that my study is very important, but now it is of further importance because we don't want to see so much of divorce, okay? So you're adding and adding and adding. And so we are becoming more and more impressed. We are being, what should I say? We are convinced. So here, the researcher adds on to the literature review, building blocks, very good organization. So a literature review is also about good organization. Right? Good organization. Apart from your paraphrasing, summing up, using the key terms and all that, it's about also it's about organization. Let us just move on a little bit more. Communication among couples is a topic that has been thoroughly studied. Very good. She tells you it's thoroughly studied. So what are we doing now? That's where your however comes in. This is the voice of the researcher. However, further study. Okay, so this is a good word, further. Okay, we were talking about what's a good word, what's a good vocabulary. This is one. It's drawing attention to what else and what more is required. This is something that you pick up along the way. You know, the more you read, the more pieces of research articles you read, you get the flow, you know, and then you start to emulate. Yeah, I'll use these words. You know, this will be good. Yeah, okay. And then maybe if you're not really sure about the meaning of the word, no harm. Check it out in the dictionary. You know, and say, do you think this might be a better word? Okay, and then you can have your editor to check it. All right, and then that's how you sort of start building. Huh? So what do we see here? See, a useful discourse marker to show that further study is needed. And so what the researcher is actually crafting, she's creating a space for her research to come in. Okay? So further research, further study of the differences in communication styles between men and women will lead to better understanding. Then she talks about something very specific. Okay, she wants to look at specifically communication among, okay, who? Newly-wed couples should be studied in order to learn what may be causing strife, problems, what may be causing problems, strife early in a marriage. And ultimately, this is her ultimate deal, okay, this is what she wants to achieve, to lead to better understanding of how to maintain a successful marriage. Remember, she started off the abstract with divorce, how crucial it is, and this is not a good thing. Look at how she's making the connection now. Now we need to look at what can help improve this situation so that we will not have all that divorce thing. You see that's how she threads it, you know, making a connection. See, the researcher has cleverly led the literature review to the researcher's question. And there she starts. Therefore, the following research question is raised. You see, this really leads into her research questions. And there she starts all her research questions here. So, in this piece, I hoped that I have covered those areas that I had flashed out on my slides. Now, I have another piece of work, which is a research paper, not a thesis like this. Do you want, can we continue with that, or should we address some questions now? What do you think?
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, I think if there is a question from the floor, the question from the Nur Hajaria Tukiran.
Yes.
She asked whether we can highlight the industry and the profession as our gap in our study. And I think if anyone would like to ask, now is the best time before we proceed with the writing the literature for research paper. I find it very interesting, especially using the words, even though I'm currently finished my PhD, but this is very an eye-opening. Okay,
yes, and actually, the more you read, the more literature reviews you read, you will get the hang of it. Just come. Don't worry about it. Yeah, the question was whether you can use occupation and what was it?
The industry and the profession as the gap.
Industry and profession as the gap. Can I have a little bit more information about this so that I can see whether, you know, what aspect of it, you know? Okay, if you're talking about a gap, that means there's something in the industry or something in the profession that needs to be addressed, and you are looking at that. Yes, yes.
I think so. I think so.
In that case, yes, of course, there is a gap. And so you are looking at that. Why not? These are areas that are important. Industry, profession. So you look at it. And then don't forget, you need to go and do your reading and your lots and lots of research on the industry, lots and lots of research in that profession, what they say, what they have found, and look for that little gap. You know, that little diagram, my little globe, and that little space there, it's got to be very clear, that gap. You've got to make a case for it. Any example of what you were thinking of for the industry or the profession? Maybe we could, brainstorm a bit.
That question was asked by Nur Hajaria Tukiran. If she's here, could she ask
Which,
personally to the Dr. Angie?
and not just to me, but all of us could, if we want to respond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But never mind. Let's continue with the literature on the research paper, Doctor.
Okay, so can I move on to the research paper?
Another questions on the floor.
Yes.
She asked this Dr. Azilawati. Hi, Prof. Can you please comment on the style of writing literature using present tense and as opposed to the using of past tense? I mean the grammatical style.
All right. Good question. A good question. When we are talking about our classic studies, okay, our gurus in the area that we're looking at, all this happened long time ago. It's obviously that you have to use the past tense. But you see, language is such that you are able to actually bring it and even talk about it in the present. So this is a tricky question. I would say a lot of the studies in the past, we'll keep them in the past to make it easy. And then how you can bring it to the present is by talking about the connection with what you want to do. Okay, even though Pavlov said, SAID said this, I find, okay, you are still finding, okay, you're not, I found. I find that if we do not give an incentive to our learners, okay, so you see, we are talking about the past and what you are doing, so you will say the past and you still have the present. I find that this is not the case. You can still do that. Yeah, but once you start reading it and writing it, you will naturally, the flow will come, you'll know whether it should be in the past or the present. Well, an easy rule will be keep it in the past. Make it less complicated. Does that help? Doctor?
Yeah, I think that does answer the questions. And another question from the floor is how to know that we have covered enough of the research in our literature review. That's the first one. And the second one is how to know when to stop in terms of the depth of the literature review.
I like both those questions,
Yeah.
Dr. Laila, tell me, you come and you talk about literature review and you talk about the analytical stance and the critique stance. And now I've got questions that I've got to go deep inside my head and,
Yeah.
about this. But it's so interesting, you know why? These are things that we went through ourselves, have we covered enough? That's always a burning question. And I always had a problem. I could never put a full stop. And the work was dragging and dragging and dragging. So I tell you what, you just have to put a timeline and say, stop here. That's it. All right. And whether it's enough or not, you must have made sure that you have covered in the main studies, the past, and the recent past, because it's not just Pavlov we're talking about in the 18th century, 17th century. There are people who have done some very, very remarkable works in recent years, in the early 90s, 1940, 1950, 1960. You need to talk about them as well, 2000. So enough, you have to have a very good sense of the work in that area. That means that you have to be very knowledgeable on that area. And you've got to check all the different sites for work, Google Scholar, and there's so many URLs to check, And then if you have covered the important gurus and the important recent past works, put a stop there. Your 6 months are going to be handing everything, stop. But you must make sure the past gurus are there and the recent past are also there. So the recent past, you don't have to go that far back, even if there's important and significant work in the year 2000, 2005, 2006, it must be there. It must be there. And if there was a work that just came out last year, and even if it was not significant, put it down, because it shows the currency of your work. Your reader is going to be very pleased to see that, okay, she has been doing her homework. It's not a great study, but it was in the area. So put it as a mention there. You've covered yourself. Is that good?
Yes, yes. I think I agree with you on that, because the depth of the literature is quite vague, I could say. This is depending on the time that you work. Since we have several, like 30 minutes to go, I think you can continue now to present the literature review for the research paper.
Okay.
All right.
I can't imagine time has gone by.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, okay. All right, this is a paper that my APB Malacca team and I did, right? And it's just a research paper, right? It's nothing so significant, but I would like to show some points here. I think some of my co-researchers are also here today at our session, so maybe you can help me out also. All right, we were looking at one Kamaria, and we talked about what she also stated. Remember what I said about building blocks? You are adding things from what was said earlier, and now you're adding something else that she did. All right, so here the researcher is slowly but surely building a case for poetry, which is not favored by students. You see, one Kamaria had said, she had reported, okay, this is a report. Reported in her study, even the word reported is there, reported in her study that poems are not preferred because students were unable to understand, hence interpret the figurative language found in literature. Students also found it difficult to understand the foreign context of the poems in the selection. Additionally, so these are the kind of words, you can either call it a vocabulary, you can call it signal words, Additionally, one Kamaria also stated, okay, past tense, because 2009, so we keep it in the past. All right, that students had a negative attitude towards activities related to memorization of facts, drills, and teacher-provided interpretations of the poems. Okay, so here is basically the researchers are building a case. Okay, all right, we're trying to establish the fact that poetry is not a popular genre among students. And then, as we go down further, the researcher's voice is backed with evidence. This is an analytical stance made possible by making a connection to a previous study and the researcher's own findings. Note the vocabulary concurs. Okay, so these are words that you can start picking up now that you might find it useful to write in your literature review. Okay, you can put it down as signal words. Then you can put another set of useful or powerful words, crucial. You can start putting concurs, you can put all that. You can start putting them in vocabulary lists. You can start working on that. So let's look at this. This concurs with random interviews with school teachers. That means this statement is coming from the researcher's voice. Okay? What was found out earlier has been agreeable with what the researchers did. So it is not a report. You hear the researcher's voice. And then you look at the next, in keeping with these findings. This is a phrase. In keeping with these findings, the researcher's voice in a partial sum up. It's a kind of a sum up, while showing the connections and links. This is more than reporting and moving to an analytical stance. In keeping with these findings, Fauzia and Jamaluddin, 2009 also, reported that, okay, they may have reported, but you, the researcher, are making the connections. Reported that student-centered activities created a better learning environment and developed students' motivation in literature. Hence, okay, hence is another word you can add to your vocabulary list. It can be a signal word, it can be a summing up word, it can be, hence, okay, you have summarized it for them, for everyone. Having student-centered activities during literature lessons, such as a poetry board game, will not only be more interesting and enjoyable, but also facilitate learning in an informal way. This is a voice of the researcher. The researcher is summing up, making connections, very powerful. And now let's look at this. Someone asked a question about how does the researcher direct the readers. The next section shows you are taking the role of directing everyone. Now I'm going to do this, so you follow me. That is direction. So here the researcher is directing the literature review for her readers. She is in control of the review, and you feel that you are falling into what they want you to see and what they want you to do. So the next section is going to be about how playing can facilitate learning without the formal and standardized ways of traditional teaching modes. Can you see that part about the researcher's direction? Can I go on?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so here we have language learning and the use of games. Let's look at this. Perhaps schools. Let's look at that sentence. Let's look at the sentence before that. Gee 2003 claims that schools are in a dilemma as to how to get young people to learn something that is challenging and to be able to enjoy it too. Perhaps schools should bring back games into the classrooms. Who is saying this? Who is saying this? Is it Gee? It is the researcher. So the researcher's voice is here again. And so this is critique. All right, she's moving on to another stance now. Okay. Let's look at this. This study also employed. This study is again your directing. Remember, we talked about it in the earlier thesis. This study also focuses this. You are directing your readers to your work. You're telling them, look, my work is important and this is what my work is doing. Okay, your voice is there, loud and clear. This study also employed an innovative board game. So you're talking about the similarity of what you are doing with what the researcher had said earlier. The other researchers. Look at the next phrase. In other words, what is that? In other words, you are making an interpretation, you are paraphrasing. There are so many things you're doing with that in other words. And you are actually making a case for yourself. Engagement was an important feature for learning to take place. And then you make a quick connection to about 1995. Yeah, this is a very interesting connection. After talking about the engagement, you quickly bring another study and connect it. Similarly, what did Bao find out? Bao remembered how his youth was filled with collaborative building, taking risk and having fun with playing games. The researcher Bao, he went back into his childhood. So you are connecting games, playing, engagement with this researcher. All right, and how he remembered his youth with all those things that were just mentioned earlier. You are making your building blocks, you are making those connections. How far is this similar to what was shown earlier? this is definitely an analytical stance. Back to in this study, you are again directing attention to your study. So now you're in control. You, the researcher, are in control. You are directing. It's like you are the director of an orchestra. So you tell them where you're going. So what is happening in the study? A poetry board game had different types of questions with different levels of difficulty. Look at the different. So it is not the same as the work that has been done earlier. You are fleshing out this. So what are the words that you use? A simple word, different. And also, hello? Is that a question?
No, it's not. It's not.
You can proceed, Dr. Angie.
Okay, lovely. All right, and then after that, added to that, look at the building blocks that we talked about earlier. Can you see it happening here? So now we're going to add some more to this. So your literature review is a series of building blocks. So added to that, what else was added? The variation of the reward and penalty system. Okay, so now we know what has been added. That's again another signal word. We're adding on things. Okay, and then we move down here. However, the chance cards were quite different. Again, what was different with your work and the earlier work? So you are fleshing this out. So the chance cards were quite different, as they gave students a chance to leap forward as a reward, or alternatively to fall back with an incorrect answer. Thus, okay, this is a summing up kind of word, a summary kind of word, you know, helping you to put it together. Thus, the game went beyond simple stars, which supported Bao's work, okay, and his belief. Right? And then we have here the board game used in this study, back again to this study. Here you are, the researcher's voice. Okay, here you are. You're concretizing your case, and you have already built up a gap. And to sum up what the game covers, which was not covered earlier here. That's why you have the different. Okay, so that is where you have come in and filled the gap. Let's go down here. We have Cohen, 2010, and here it is therefore crucial. And I think we came across the word crucial in the other literature review as well. So make sure you put that word down in your list, vocabulary list. It is therefore crucial for teachers to possess a wide methodological repertoire that they can use under different classroom environments and to students of different internal and external compositions. The researcher's voice again. It's a partial sum up while pushing for her case. Note the use of vocabulary. Crucial again, as in the other work. This was also used in the other. It helps to show importance of the study. And then let's have a look here. Therefore, finding the right balance between the learner's anticipation of rewards and the rewarding nature of a particular language learning task is of utmost importance in ensuring that the learners can be liberated from the extrinsic returns of the task. The researcher's voice is summing up and directing the readers to make connections that she wants the readers to see. And she and the group, the researchers, there's a group of them, there's 4 of them here. They want the readers to see that this game is something different. It is something that is to fill the gap in the classroom, in the poetry classroom in school. And that is the research paper, and I'm open to questions. Do you want me to keep the screen on, or can I minimize and go back to the to look at all the questions? I can't see any questions being posed, or or should I just leave it here?
I think you can minimize this and then we can see your face while you're
Oh,
answering
I
our
don't see. I'm
questions.
not really keen on seeing my face, but I'm keen on and what is it that we need to address?
Okay, I think there are several questions here.
Okay.
The first one is by Azwati Mahmud. She asks, should we use direct to the point words and make the thesis academically simple for readers to understand? And then she said that she has seen some theses with bombastic statements or wording in runabout kind of way. Could you comment on this?
Okay, the thing is, we get readers from the United States, we get readers from the United Kingdom, we get readers from the Asian countries. They all have their different styles. In the States, they are very easygoing. They your writing style is it's so easygoing, and you don't have to go into so much of detail. In the UK, they want to make sure that you've got all the right studies there. Your language is very what should I say? Very scripted, but definitely, I don't think any